Hi there, I am doing a bit of a video about what it's like to have this Siberian Husky for 11 years with us now. So she's an 11-year-old Siberian. We got her back in 2008. And she is, as far as we can tell, purebred, but we didn't get her from a breeder or anything. We just got her, I can't even remember where we got her from. I think we just bought her from a person in the paper. But yeah, she's relatively pure as far as we can tell and has lots of the Husky traits. We just don't have the papers for anything fancy like that. So I'm going to break this down into a few different talking points, and this might steer your choice about perhaps if you want to get one of these dogs, because while this is about Ada, I'm fairly certain a lot of these facts are going to be true for most Siberian Huskies, and there might be something that you go, oh shit, I didn't even know that. That might change everything about how I was going to get them, because these are, I guess, a bit of a, it's almost not a brand, but it's a bit of a, it's one of those breeds that's gone through a bit of a popular resurgence and then a downward, reduction in popularity, and sort of every now and then you'll see about, a fair few high-profile Huskies getting around, and that'll of course lead to lots of purchases and things like that. So this may affect whether you want to even get one or not. What I would recommend with a Husky, you're going to find there should be some in rescue centres and things like that, because a lot of people get these dogs and then just realise that they're a bit fucked sometimes. Like it's not an easy dog to run with. It takes a lot of effort, maximum effort dog, to get one like this. This has been something that I've put a lot of work into over the years, and some folks get them, and in the initial first crazy couple of years with the escapes and with the digging and all that sort of stuff, they give up. So by all means, really strongly stress you to check a centre, and even if you get something that's mostly Husky, I think it'll definitely, tick your needs for it. So there's that first. But first thing I'm going to talk about, the first talking point, I guess, of this Husky is her temperament. So Ada's temperament is exceptionally demure and very, very chill in about 95% of circumstances. So with people, when she's meeting someone first up, she'll be a little bit excited and, fairly curious. But she's largely going to boil down to being like this with most folks. So this is her sort of just chilled out state, and she's been like this for most of her life. Like when she was a real puppy, like a year and under, she was probably a little bit jumpier, a little bit more. She'd come up and she'd paw people a little bit. That's kind of how Huskies investigate the world, just as much with their paws as with their noses and mouths. So she'd get a bit of that at first, but really, this dog is incredibly well balanced with people at the very least. With other dogs, she's not aggressive with other dogs, but she's incredibly dominant. So her brother Cedric, who lives here, well, he's not her actual brother, but her platonic life mate Cedric, who lives here with us, he's a much bigger dog. He's a much older dog. Well, he's about a year older. And as soon as she came here as a puppy, she owned him. So I think one of the first things she did was stand on top of him and pee on his head, and that's set the tone for the rest of the relationship. She herds him around, she eats before he eats, all that sort of stuff. That's how dogs work. They've worked it out. Neither of them seem unhappy about it, but that's what happens. Cedric's never really pushed back against it. Every now and then, when we've put something really nice on the floor, you've had a couple of growls, but that's about it. So with other dogs, as long as they're happy for her to be very dominant, which I think dogs have a way of working all that stuff out anyway, she's absolutely fine with that as well. Once we were walking and a bulldog ran over and tried to have a go at her, and she just sort of hid behind me because she's got very much a pack structure in her mind, and that was sort of my job to keep her safe from the other dog, which I did. So that's kind of how she goes. Very sort of old breed of dog, and I think very, very much traditional pack focused. And if you really approach their training and their raising with that pack mentality, that's the best way to do it, because that's why we've got such a good dog here. Ever since she was a puppy, when she's been unreasonable, we've taken her to the ground with a gentle neck. Well, we've done it like her parents would, taking by the neck scruff, guiding to the ground, presenting the belly, and that's been her ever since. And even when she comes out and she knows she's being a bit cheeky, perhaps she's tried to escape and I've caught her in it, she'll be straight on the floor with her belly open, saying sorry. And so that's the temperament we're dealing with, and it is amazing. She's an absolutely beautiful dog. So that's probably the best thing about her. These next talking points are going to be things that you really need to think about if you are looking to go this route with your dogs. So first thing, they're not like traditional dogs in how they interact with you. They are a little bit more like cats. You reach out to most dogs, they'll come up, lick your hand, and they'll be really into it and really curious and all that sort of stuff. You're just as likely to get her to brush you off and walk away. She'll come and engage with you on her terms, or you need to almost like earn her respect, I guess, each interaction sometimes, making her curious or making her interested in coming and seeing you. And yeah, it's very much like that. I got no doubt that she loves us, but she's also, a bit of a picky people person as well. So it's not a guaranteed when you come out that she's going to come up excited, sniffing, looking at you. She's probably just she might just sit over in a little hole that she's dug for herself, and you might have to come over to her or whatever. It could be a bit of a extension of that dominance into the human world as well. But I've always just found she's a little more cat-like than dog-like in her, some of her behaviours at any rate. So another thing is they don't play like conventional dogs. Well, she doesn't. I've not really known many Huskies that will play like a game of fetch or anything like that. They love tearing things up. Her favourite thing to do is if I leave a big cardboard box out in the yard, she'll just dismantle it into 1,000 tiny flakes of cardboard. She absolutely loves that. They just like running around, and she chases birds when they land in the yard. Every now and then she'll catch one. And frankly, to play with Ada, we play this weird game of just me kind of wrestling her around and chasing her about and making sudden movements with each other and darting through, and that burns up a bit of her energy if I don't have the time to take her for a walk. I'll just basically run around and we'll chase each other around outside. So really weird way of playing. Cedric, a few goes with the ball and that's done. So that's probably one of the things that surprises a lot of folks. They don't really, they're not retrieving dogs. They're running like long-term endurance dogs. So that's, I guess, just something that you need to pick up. Unless you really make a go of it from when they're really small and make the ball like a really important thing to them, I think you're going to basically end up just doing what I do and exercising them in much more physical and less sort of retrievery style tasks, I guess. So that's how she plays and interacts with people. In terms of keeping a Husky, well, you're going to need a amazing fence, or you're going to do like me and learn along the way. So we've been in 3 houses since we've had Ada, and every house the fences end up looking like the Mad Max Thunderdome as she discovers a new weak spot. They're just curious by nature. They want to see what's on the other side of things. They're ranging dogs, they really are. So we have found that something like a storm or some fireworks locally will be enough to get her wanting to get out and just go running. Probably the sound scares her, and she just needs to either be with us the whole time, but sometimes we're out, so we'll get home often and she's got out. So around Ada's neck, we have a tag made that says exactly where she lives, my phone number, and that there is a fixing spot at the front of our house with some water attached to it that you can return her to if you've come across her in one of the local streets. And every now and then we've come back after a night and there's there must have been a storm because Ada's tied up at the front because some nice person has gone and just found her nearby and just walked her back home and just secured her at the front of our house, and we've collected her and it's been fun. So that's something that you're going to have to learn with a Siberian Husky, is that they will test your fence. Some of them can climb trees. This one never has. I'm fortunate for that, I guess. But yeah, they will burrow and just push through the slightest weaknesses in steel fences. They're like velociraptors, man. They just keep testing. So that is something that it's an ongoing thing. Lately, as she's gotten a little bit older, she seems to have lost her complete call of the wild thing, but she's still, you get the suitable motivation behind her, and you hear her digging and you hear her picking at fences even still sometimes. So just something you need to keep in mind. That's going to be your biggest challenge, keeping her contained in your yard. A fence that goes down probably 1.5 foot under the ground and is probably 7 or 8 feet tall would be ideal. Otherwise, I know it's not always possible, but you're just going to have to make do with what neighbour fences you've got and just reinforce them with chicken wire, with all that sort of stuff. But make sure it's thick gauge chicken wire, because these little jaws can be like a little wire snip. They can be I've had her chew through wire and just twist it and break it. Quite ingenious with those things. She can open gates. She can pull up the bolts at the bottom of gates and get the gates swinging open in the wind. So a lot of brain power dedicated to being a little bit naughty like that. So that's another thing. In terms of their general health, we found very few problems. I often get asked, oh, how do you go in Australia with the heat? She hasn't had a single problem in the heat. She's already living her best life. Like she's had 2 snake bites, which are known to shorten the lifespan of a dog significantly, and she's 11 going on 12. Did you hear something? Did you hear something? She's 11 going on 12, and she's been absolutely fine. She sits in a pool of water when it's hot, but not too much. She just sits with her paws in it. She doesn't like, Huskies don't like getting thoroughly wet. I think it goes back to the whole, I live in the snow, so if I get wet, I freeze and die. So she hasn't done that, but she does retain a few sort of Arctic style behaviours. She'll dig a little sleeping hole in the dirt as if they would in the snow, all that sort of stuff. Like most of our yard has just got these like really shallow little half circle holes in it that she sleeps in from time to time. But yeah, so never really had a particular health issue from her, apart from, and this is most pointy-eared dogs, they get ear mites, because the flap-eared dogs, they sort of generally keep them out a little bit more. But any dog that lives amongst dirt and lives like out in just a normal yard, there's little mites that live in the ground that can live in their ears, and if you don't treat them, they can cause like ear damage and things like that, and just itchiness. You'll see your dog really pawing at its ears sometime, might have ear mites. You can just treat them with like a spray from your vet and just an ear irrigation regime. So that's the only problem we've had with her. Apart from a couple of snake bites, just because she's inquisitive, and they are a little bit of a hunting dog as well. So that being said, we've always had cats with Ada, and she's always been lovely with the cats. She's been, you see her play with Basil and play with our other outside cat that we used to have, Olive. Absolutely fine. And then we've had rabbits though, and she's recognised them immediately as a prey animal, and she's killed them. So we had a rabbit hutch that we thought, it's a secure, strong hutch. It can sit outside with the dogs. They won't do too much to it. We woke up in the morning and Ada had smashed through the wooden side of the hutch, and it must have been like The Shining for those poor rabbits. And that was a bit of a bad morning, but whatever. She's just got a high hunting drive. Anything that is like a bird or a rabbit, she's got the hunger for. All right, so in terms of maintenance, you've got a big Husky coat, which is going to need brushing probably at least every couple of weeks. I mean, if you want to keep it pristine, fine, you could probably do it every day. But I just use a Terminator brush, and I just get a good big amount off every couple of weeks, and she's fine with that. She's pretty used to it. They don't like having their haunches brushed. I haven't met many dogs that do. That's about the only part that gives her any issues. I take her to the drive-in dog wash, just spray her with the dog washing hoses. That seems to do the trick with her coat. But apart from that, it's not the worst thing in the world. But that being said, she's a bit more of a short-haired husky. She's not as crazy hairy as some of the really big buffy ones you see. So whether that's just her or whether that's all huskies, I'm not sure. So that's obviously a brushing thing, and that's probably not going to be a surprise to you. What I can't really understate is the sheer amount of energy that you need to burn off of these guys every day. So she needs probably a good hour walk every day. Whether she gets it every day is another thing, but if she doesn't, she's a bit of a dick. Like, it's in your benefit that you wear them out at the start of the day or at the end of the day, and that'll keep them either from digging, trying to escape, just entertaining themselves by destroying things. Or at night time, if you just want them to have a peaceful night, then take them for a big old walk, even a bit of a jog, and that's fine. While you're walking her, these huskies, they're made for the snow, they're not made for the Australian bush, and I'm aware of that. So I've got her some shoes to wear, because there's lots of prickles in the Australian bush, lots of prickly seeds and plants, and these soft paws, unlike sort of, say, my retrievers, they've got quite robust paws. These soft paws are really, really prone to little prickles and things like that, and you'll just find her, if she's not wearing her shoes, just hopping every other minute, just while her back leg will be kicking up her front leg. That's just the main thing that I've noticed about her. So some shoes, and get them into those shoes early in life, because Ada's had to get into them late in life, and she's not loving it even yet, but she puts up with it for a walk. Like, obviously she knows it's all part of the process, so she'll go for a walk with her shoes on, but she don't love it. But yeah, she definitely needs some shoes to get her going as well. So that's that. Anyway, so in terms of other stuff that you might need to know about a Siberian Husky, look, price-wise, I don't know the prop ones are running, they're probably about $2 or $3 grand now, I'd say. I don't know. I think we paid like $600 for Ada from like someone in their backyard who had too many dogs. So that was when she was a brand new puppy, but just a bit of a backyard thing, I guess. Apparently the two parents were Huskies, but it's not what we're really about. We just looked in the paper and we saw, oh, that's a cute dog, let's get that one. We were young, we were probably a bit silly, we were probably not prepared, but we would never have given her up once we'd got her, even though she's been very, very challenging at certain points in our life, especially when like you might be out for tea somewhere, you know, all dressed up, and you get a call from someone saying, oh, I've got this dog here, I haven't really got anywhere to take it, can you come and get it right now? And you're like, well, I guess we have to. So that's what's also been the idea behind our fixing posts at the front of the house as well. But anyway, we've got little kids. She's absolutely lovely with little kids, really gentle, seems to have a sense of who she can play rough with and who she shouldn't, and never had an issue with her being aggressive or anything like that. We've always trained our dogs to be able to put our hands in their mouths and stuff like that, so I mean, she doesn't love it, but she's not going to bite you if you put your hands in their mouth or poke her in the eyes, all that sort of stuff. We've always trained them assuming that little kids are just going to do all that stuff to them. And if they're used to it, maybe they're less likely to. Because some kids deserve to get bitten because they treat dogs like shit. So we just tried to proof her from that as much as we could, and that's been a pretty decent success. Like, you can more or less do whatever you want to this dog, and she's cool. It's just all positive contact as far as she's concerned. I think incredibly loving. Not the easiest thing in the world to deal with, and definitely not a passive dog. We got Cedric thinking that would be enough. Oh, maybe they'll just play with each other. Nowhere near. He's like a couch potato dog, pretty much. He likes a bit of exercise, but she is just a completely different, much more wild thing. So there we are. Siberian Husky. Been meaning to make this video for a while. Bit of a talking head, I know, but hope it's been of some value to you at any rate. Alright, goodbye now.
Ada, where's a bone?